What if billionaires were to buy a bunch of movie franchises? Now, this question came about thanks to Jeff Bezos owning Amazon, and he's got Lord of the Rings. And then also, of course, there's, Disney has Star Wars, Marvel, and a bunch of other properties. But then also the Elon Musk buying Twitter thing kind of sparked this question as well. It was like, what if billionaires were to somehow have an interest in filmmaking and they wanted to buy up different movie franchises the way that they can. They can buy whatever ones they can try to get their hands on and try to make movies in those franchises. Would that be a good thing or a bad thing? Now we can use examples that we already have, I guess, with Disney, even though it's not one specific billionaire, but it is a huge corporation, I suppose. I mean, this isn't the same exact comparison here, but it's like the idea being that it has a backer. There's Disney, the company of Disney owns Star Wars and Marvel and things like that. So, there's their own individual studios, but with the umbrella company being Disney, I assume that's how that works. And that if there's a Star Wars project being funded or Marvel project being funded, that they have like a normal means of setting their budgets, but if they really needed to dip into something else, or if there was like the Avengers movie, or that one was like over $1 billion to make, it's like, does Disney just spot them a few bucks because they have a bunch of other assets or something else? So I'm not entirely sure how that process works with studios that are that big, but in a way, we would think that the more money that can back a project, the better it would be. However, I don't know. Like I've been on a huge fan film kick as of late, and I do question if having more money equals that it would be a better product. Because with fan films or short films in general, made by everyday people that are trying to do stuff, maybe they have some skill with film, like they have been making it for years, and but they're just not in Hollywood, or they're just in the independent sphere, whatever you want to say here. With it, they don't have huge budgets. Is the main point. Like a lot of their stuff is still really well done. And even if we were to look at ones that are in Hollywood that had money behind it, but still had problems like Jaws or The Abyss, like those films still did well, even with some of the technical stuff they had to get over. The shark, of course, and there's a bunch of different water drainage that had to happen with The Abyss because where they're filming and people trying to hold their breath and just all these different situations that are going on with that. And then you look at fan film ones, and there are expensive fan films. The Star Wars Theory Vader fan film was pretty expensive. I don't know if that was the most expensive like fan film ever made, but I would say it's probably up there if that's the case. And there's a lot of other great high quality fan films, but then there's some that are lower quality, but they have a lot of heart to them. They have a lot of good story and character in them, even if they're 10 minutes long or 7 minutes long, 20 minutes long, whatever. There's a different variety and range here. And yes, some of them are pretty bad, but some of them are also done really well. And in such a short amount of time to get so much substance into a story, that's impressive. And that isn't determined by the money necessarily. So I'm wondering if there's some billionaires or just in general, if you have a bunch of money backing a project, that of course I think Hollywood currently shows that that doesn't really matter necessarily, or even the last 20 years or so. If you have a big budget, it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to do very well. But I would just be curious what people would think if like either companies that are just super big were to take up more franchises, or billionaires specifically like buy the rights to certain franchises, and then we're going to start pumping out movies. Would that be a good thing or a bad thing with the average person, just without looking into it too deep? And in some way, shape, or form, I would think it would be decent if, let's say, that happened, or that Jeff Bezos, for example, were to buy a franchise, but like really pick some really good people to make them. But then that gets into a different conversation about who's really good or in what way. Is it about making better? Is just specifically about making more money based on an algorithm, or based on fan base, or based on whatever? It's hard to tell these days what people actually want to do, because it seems like most films are not made because people want to make the films. They're made to make money specifically. Now, making money is good, but I do think that it would help if people actually want to bring something to life, if they have a creation, some idea that they want to spring out, that'd be great. And that's what fan films to me kind of are, because they're taking just the concept or taking characters that exist in a world that exists, and they're trying to, that's from a movie, and they're trying to bring something to life with it, with whatever resources they have. They're trying to make that happen, and that's impressive in and of itself. And now you think, if they had a little bit more funding, would they be able to do more stuff with it? Would it be an easier process for them? Would it be more difficult? Would they end up ruining it? Would having this access to so many toys kind of ruin their focus on what they're trying to do? Because I kind of think of it like that, in a way where, like, right now, if I were to have just access to all these different film things, I would go, wow, it's so awesome. I could do so many things that I couldn't do before. That right now I'd be almost lost on what to do, because there's so many things to do now. As to where, when you're restricted in some kind of way, you have to think your way out of situations. You got to think your way at it however you can use. You got to do what you can with what you got, as Bert Gummer would say. That's pretty much the best way to put it. I think I've said all that I need to with this one. Would giving billionaires or big companies access to franchises do better for them? Would giving them to smaller productions, smaller directors, work to its benefit? Or would that also be part of a cycle that ends up crippling it? Should some franchises really just stay done and not continue them? I think so, but that's another topic for a different day. And I think with that, I'm going to end it right there. And have a great rest of your day.